Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. So this is where I like to collect together all the albums that I've purchased over the past week and present it to you. You guys see I get it from a lot of different places. Of course, my local record store, but also online retail like Amazon, eBay, and more. I've also been going to some record shows and things like that, so kind of branching out and finding a bunch of new things, and that's cool. This particular week, we got some new releases coming back into play, which is great, kicking off the new year, and we're going to talk about all of that in just a bit. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, let's kick things off like we normally used to do. We haven't been able to do this for a few weeks because we didn't have new releases, but I got some this time. First one up is one that was big for me that I was super waiting for, and then it didn't get shipped to me quick enough, kind of a thing, and it drug out. But Iggy Pop, Every Loser. Boy, have I been enjoying this album. I can't say enough great things about this. Really, really like it. In my opinion, it's a great return to form, rock, sort of punk rock sounding album where there's a lot of rage, a lot of emotion, a lot of the great stuff that Iggy Pop has always brought to his music. But, you know, the last album that he did, I think it was called Free, and it was more jazz tinged. And then before that, he made an album with Queens of the Stone Age backing him up. Post-Pop Depression, I think it was called. Both of those are great. I really enjoyed those albums, but I have to say he hadn't really rocked hard for some time, maybe for about 20 years. This album does it. And the song Frenzy is absolutely the best track on here, and that is just hands down an amazing rocker. But the second track, Strung Out Johnny, loving that. It's a kind of a darker, more mellow tune, but it just works. My only complaint on here is there's like 3 interludes where he speaks during them and does some things, and they're a little kind of off and break the flow of things. But aside from that, everything on here is good and loving it. So check it out if you haven't already. I do recommend it. And then I got this Roger Taylor, drummer of Queen, live album from his tour, the Outsider Tour. Solo album of the same name, which was really good. He hadn't made one himself in some time, so that was cool. But then to do a live album, and I missed it because it got dropped as a digital album and then was apparently only released on his website domestically, meaning in the West. So US could buy it, UK could buy it, stuff like that. And then when I finally did find out about that, it was out of print, sold out and everything, so no more existed. And then I found out that it was getting a release in Japan, which I thought was very strange. But once I found out the history of it and whatnot, and I guess they just decided that since he had already released it via his website, they didn't need to do a regular domestic release. And in fact, Japan market will snap up anything that's Western related. So Roger Taylor, still big over there as a solo artist, even though he's really only, you know, well known as the Queen drummer. But double album, live, really good. I don't buy live albums often, but Roger Taylor I would absolutely do that for. I've always loved his vocals and the songs that he wrote for Queen, and I think his solo material is sadly overlooked and underrated, so definitely worth having. All right, another one I picked up, haven't opened it yet and dug into it, Glass Tiger 33. This is an EP from 2019, and again, I missed this first go round and only just found out about it while searching for Glass Tiger stuff, which they don't do a lot of new material. A one track here, one track there, a lot of re-records and stuff like this or that. But this is 6 tracks, and as far as I know, all of them are new for this EP. So very excited about that. I've just been on a kick from other things, so that's just sitting in a new pile that will get opened and unwrapped and then like fully enveloped when I'm in the mood for that. I don't sit on them very long. I know some people have asked about that. Generally speaking, everything that is out in the collection has been listened to. But sometimes I get things in, and by the time they come in from when they're ordered, I've kind of moved on past that, and I don't want to just open it and not really be able to enjoy it. So sometimes I'll sit on it for a little bit and wait a week or two until I'm back into it. That's why you might occasionally see some albums sealed that I'm showing you guys, but they don't stay sealed for very long. I do have to cut into my music very soon. All right, here's one that I ordered on eBay twice actually. Rick Springfield, Success Hasn't Spoiled Me Yet. It's second album of the 80s, and I know I keep saying this, he had 4 albums in the 70s, so Working Class Dog was the 5th. This is actually his 6th album, but most people don't know about those 4 albums, and they consider Working Class Dog the first album when it's not, in fact, and this the second. I'm known for doing that, and I have to get over that or get past that, but yeah, so this was the follow-up, I should really just say, to Working Class Dog. And I don't know, I know this one sold 1 million copies. I don't really know specifically what was the big hit off here, although on the greatest hits was Don't Talk to Strangers, was the track that they pulled and put on there. And it's a great track, but the song I Get Excited is so close to Jesse's Girl. I'm kind of surprised they even put it on here, but then I'm also surprised if you're going to write one that is so close to it, why didn't it get released as a single? Or maybe it did and it just didn't do anything. But it's the second track, which is the same position Jesse's Girl is on Working Class Dog. So they were really trying to replicate that with this album, and unfortunately that kind of makes me like the album a little less. But all in all, it's a good album. I'm glad to be finally digging in deeper to his career, because I kind of only ever thought of him as that one-hit wonder with Jesse's Girl. And the Working Class Dog album has never really clicked with me, even though I know that's his most popular album. But what's funny is the albums that have come after that have turned out to be the ones that I've liked even better. And if you've seen in past episodes of this, I've been picking some of those up. Doing some record shopping, and you guys saw in one of my past videos that I showed this, the Papa John Creech went to Princeton Record Exchange and made an experience video from that. So good. This was just a curiosity that I bought. I don't remember, it's a few bucks. It didn't cost me much to pick it up and give it a try, like $3.99 or something. But it was so good, I ended up buying it on CD and replacing it. And I was very glad. They did a really nice job. In terms of, sometimes you get these albums that are on these very small labels. This is Grayscale Records, never heard of it, but they did a nice job on it, replicating it, so that was good. Happy to have that, and now I'll just be going to that. And I mentioned this in one of my other videos. Somebody has asked, well, what do you do when you duplicate something or whatever? If the record isn't really valuable, when I say record, I mean the vinyl, then I will oftentimes gift it to a friend of mine who has shown interest in it, and that's probably what I will do here. But when I do that, I don't often hang on to my vinyl. So people will ask me and say, well, how many records do you have? And I'm like, oh, well, I've got a couple hundred. And then they think, well, gee, you only collect CDs, you don't do that. Well, no, I buy a lot, but I like to buy the ones that are $1, $2, $3, take the chance, explore an artist, and then oftentimes if I really like it, I replace it on CD, because I'm just a CD guy. I prefer, and just to finish that thought off, having to get up and flip the record over and only be able to listen to a 15-minute and a 15-minute separate like that, I'm of the era where I want to listen to the album complete and not have to flip. So that's often why, if the album is so good, I end up replacing it on CD so that I can just have the album from start to finish and not be flipping it, that kind of thing. Okay, and then I made a trip to my favorite record store, Sound Exchange, and picked up a bunch of stuff, and I had a very good visit with them. Sometimes I go in and, it's one or two things, or it's this or that, and I went in looking for one thing, and I ended up walking out with 6 things. And they're really good for having pretty much anything you want, whether it's used or they'll have a new, and whether it's a new domestic release or it's a new Japanese release, you can pretty much find anything you want there, and that's why I'll go there and just take that chance. And so I was on a big Steve Winwood kick, and I found I bought it on record at Vinyl Addiction, which is actually a store that is owned by a friend of Anthony from Sound Exchange, so I went there. And I picked up the record, and again, enjoyed the record so much, I found this used, and I don't mind replicating something like that when I can get them both used, in fact. So together, didn't even cost me the price of a new CD, so I don't mind it then if I'm picking up the used one. And this was kind of cool. I don't have something to show you exactly what it is, but the later day remastered version from Island Records has no back on it. It's just white and has the song titles, and I hate that. And I was there and I saw that version, and then I saw this one here that, oh, once upon a time it actually had a back on it like the record, and the album art is a different blue here than the later issue of it. So I was really glad to see that and get that, and again, that made it fun to be able to find that out, and even if I'm replicating it on CD, to then have those differences and stuff. But that album probably his most popular one. Maybe, I don't know if it has the biggest hits, but I know that that one kind of kicked off his solo career and whatnot, so that was cool getting that back into the collection now. But this is the one I went down for, actually, and was so glad to get it because I thought I had this in my collection, and if I do, I can't find it. But I think it's one of those ones that I just eyeballed so many times to the point that I thought I had it somewhere and I didn't. Steve Winwood, Refugees of the Heart from 1990, his second Virgin album release, because he was on Island and left Island at the height of his solo career in like 87, and then in 88 he makes Roll With It, which was a huge success, but then this one here, which didn't really do a whole lot as I understand it. And it's actually a really great album, but when I realized I didn't have a Steve Winwood album in my collection, I had to run out and get it. Found it used, and I love that Sound Exchange has the buy 3 get 2 free thing, because I was able to pick up a couple other things, balance things out like that. And so here's one I took a chance on, and I've been digging a little deeper into Dave Mason, but I got the Let It Flow album, which I believe is his most popular, and I've eyed this for a while because I had seen this on vinyl at one point, thought it was really cool. Didn't really know who Dave Mason was at the time, and then did some exploring and found out, oh, from Traffic, from Fleetwood Mac, etc. I do know who he is, kind of a thing, but never picked anything up. And then that made me buy a Greatest Hits. Then I bought a second Greatest Hits. This is actually the first Dave Mason solo album, and I fell in love with it. Turns out I actually really enjoy the album, and knew a couple tracks off there. The So High, Rock Me Baby, Roll Me Away, We Just Disagree, which is probably his biggest hit. I didn't know these except for the Greatest Hits, but I understand We Disagree is a pretty big one on rock radio. But Let It Go, Let It Flow. I love that tune, and I didn't realize it was on here. Of course, once I realized the title, I realized it must be on there. But that was really great. Been digging deeper because of Steve Winwood with Traffic, Jim Capaldi, Fierce Heart. And this was a cool find because I got this one. It's the Wounded Bird one. And this one is a very expensive album. I picked it up for $13.99. But this one here goes for median range, $150 on Discogs, upwards of $300 to $350. And when I realized that, I immediately went down and bought my copy for $13.99. Sorry, Sound Exchange. Sorry, Anthony. You guys had a really expensive album in your collection that you could have been selling on Discogs, but I took it home. So hopefully you appreciate that a music lover got such a great album, and I have really enjoyed it because it is so decidedly 80s in its sound, and probably why it's not really considered one of his most popular albums, even though it's one of his most expensive collectible albums. And being on a kick with Sting and the Police and stuff like that you've seen from some of my other videos. Let's see if I say this right. Symphonicities, which is a play on symphony and synchronicity, put together here. So Sting reinterprets 12 of his both Police and solo hits with a symphony. So the symphony plays the music, he sings over it, and it actually works really well. And I kind of steered clear of this for a long time, well, for 22 plus years, because this is a 2010 record that I never picked up. But then when I really gave it a chance, I was like, wow, I kind of actually like that. And I had gotten into that recently with some other artists that have been recording full orchestra with them singing over it. Cutting Crew did one, Berlin did one, Wang Chung did one. So a bunch of artists like that on a particular label that's been doing that, but enjoying those. So then this clicked when I picked that up and was glad to get it. And again, in some previous videos, I've been digging deep into Edgar Winter, Rick Derringer, and stuff like that. And going back to Sound Exchange, where I bought a bunch of Edgar Winter and Rick Derringer stuff, missed this one, or maybe it just wasn't in stock and it came back in stock in between my visits. But twofer from Edgar Winter on the BGO label, but in particular Edgar Winter with Rick Derringer solo album. well, solo album. I mean, Edgar Winter stuff is solo, but that pairing, because the Edgar Winter group, which had Rick Derringer on the second album and then this one, but Rick Derringer was so popular, I think that's why they gave him billing. And then another Edgar Winter solo album, Jasmine Night Dreams, which not as a big fan of that style because it constantly changed styles on different albums. But again, glad to have these in the collection because, you know, Edgar Winter's made like the disco album, the rock album, the blues album, you know, jazz album, like just all these different things. And when I get in those different veins, then I've got it and I can pull it out. So all in all, pretty cool. A lot of cool finds there for me and a lot of cool stuff that clicked along the way, making for just some fun experiences finding, but then even better when I was enjoying and listening to it. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Certainly leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts. Check back for more videos like this. I do these every week, every Wednesday. All right, everyone, take care. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.